All right, in this stage, this is where this is a stage that I think is the most fun. This is where we're going to work on all the details, the surface elements. So defining the way the character looks, eyes, nose, claws, teeth, if there's any. It's where you can get really fancy with hair if you want. And this is also the stage that you need to be the most picky with. So if you're a perfectionist, if you like small, fine details, this is probably the stage that you'll enjoy the most. So I'm setting up his face, just adding a little bit more to the bottom part of the face. Getting that blended in. And then here I'm adding just a little bit more detail to the hair, making sure that it comes out far enough. I'm getting that smoothed in. But not the very end. I'm not smoothing in the very end. I want that to look like it's apart from the top of his head, like it's hair sitting on top. Now we'll give him some ears. So we'll attach these triangular shaped pieces of clay to the side of his head, and then I'm going to use my reduction tool, called a ribbon, to dig out the inner part of the ear. Okay, so now you can see I'm using what's called a ribbon tool. If you get a set of clay tools, that usually includes a ribbon tool. Ribbon tool is just a stick with a O-shaped metal piece at the end. And what that can do is you drag it along the clay, and it pulls off clay in a ribbon. That's the name of the ribbon tool. I'm using it here to define the area between the head and the neck and shoulders and the hair, because before it was just all one piece. And my ribbon tools aren't actually ribbon tools. So the ribbon tool that you would get in a clay tool set, those are usually way too big for the figures, the scale figures that I use. So what I did is got some blackhead removers, which have a little metal loop on the end. I guess you're supposed to use that to extract said blackhead. And one of them I left as a circle, and the other one I pinched to make it a little bit more narrow, which is the shape you usually find real ribbon tools in. And those work terrific for extracting clay on the size of figures that I usually use. And my ribbon tools have only been used on clay. They don't double up as blackhead removers, so completely hygienic. But you're going to see here that I outlined the inside of the ear, and now I'm using my ribbon tool to remove bits of clay to define the inner ear part, make it more 3D looking. I could have just painted that on, but taking the time to do this gives it more depth and detail. Just depends on how detailed you want to get with the figures. For me, in the commissions I do, the more the customer is willing to pay for a bigger size, I tend to do more detail work than smaller or less expensive ones. Because honestly, detailing does take a lot of time and effort, but it's what really makes the character look good once it's all finished. Now I'm going to work on the eye, and with my earlier figures I would just paint on the eye, which looks okay, especially with more cartoon characters, but watching tutorials kind of like this, I learned a technique where you draw the eye, which is what I'm doing now, and then I'll use my ribbon tool to extract clay from the eye, making a socket, and then I'm going to I'll form clay into an eye shape and put it back in, and what that does is the eyeball part that I insert sticks up over top the socket, so it gives it a much more realistic 3D look. Again, you can just paint an eye on to save time, but taking the time to define the eye and actually sculpt an eye into the socket really adds another level of detail. Now I'm going to do the claws. So I think I talked about this in a previous section for this tutorial. There's two different ways that you can do claws and teeth, horns. You can use raw clay, unbaked clay, and push that into the raw clay and kind of blend it in. That'll give you the look of it all being one form. Or what I'm doing here is I have made claws previously, and then I used my heat gun to bake them, or partially bake them, so they're hardened, and then you can embed them in the raw clay. Since the claws are hard, you can just push them in. And I prefer to do that when I want it to look like the claw is coming out of the hand or the foot. I don't want it to look like it's blended into one form. Neither method is better than the other. It's just how you want the claw, the tooth, the horn, spike, whatever, to look when it's finished. Now that being said, for my figures that have teeth, spiky teeth, I have found that it makes pre-baking the teeth and then embedding them into the jaw. I have found that that method makes it a lot easier than trying to work with tiny raw pieces of clay.